The rain fell hard on the battlefield. Mud covered everything metal, blood, and bodies. Alien soldiers in black armor walked among the ruins, checking for any signs of life. Then one of them shouted, "Here, a human." Two aliens dragged a man out from under a pile of debris. His body was bruised and blood dripped from his head. But he wasn't wearing armor. He was wearing light blue scrubs, the clothes of a medic. They expected him to beg or cry. Instead, the human looked up, smiled, and whispered, "About time." The aliens were confused. One of them kicked him in the ribs. The human coughed, but the smile didn't disappear. "What's your name?" "Human," the alien commander asked, leaning close. "Dr. Elias Ward," he said. "Field medic, Earth Battalion 7. Not a soldier?" "Nope," Elias replied. "I heal people." "But I guess you don't need that, do you?" The alien commander laughed. "You're useless to us. Maybe we'll let the prisoners use you. Maybe you can fix their broken bones." Elias looked around at the battlefield and then at the dark skies. "Sure," he said calmly. "I'll make myself useful." Elias was taken to a prison camp hidden inside a mountain. It was cold, dark, and filled with the stink of sweat and fear. Hundreds of human and alien prisoners were locked inside, most of them wounded. The alien guards thought Elias was no threat. After all, he had no weapons, no training, and no strength. Just a bag of medical supplies they let him keep out. Of pity, but Elias was always watching. He watched how the guards moved. He counted how many steps they took between patrols. He noted which ones were lazy, which ones were cruel, and which ones were scared. He studied the broken walls, the old vents, and the leaking pipes. Every little detail he remembered, and most of all, he listened. He listened to the prisoners, humans and aliens alike. Many of them were left untreated, slowly dying. Elias started helping them. He cleaned wounds, made splints from old plastic, and stitched skin with thread from his torn shirt. The prisoners were surprised. Why help them? A human soldier asked, pointing to a wounded alien prisoner. "Because it makes them trust me," Elias replied quietly. "But they're the enemy. Not today," Elias said. "Today we're all in chains." One night while cleaning a prisoner's wounds, Elias found a broken piece of metal, a sharp one. He didn't throw it away. He wrapped it in cloth and hid it in his sleeve. Later, he found a rusty wire behind a loose tile, then a piece of glass from a broken food tray. Slowly, piece by piece, Elias started collecting tools, not for escape knot. Yet, he had a different plan. He called it surgery. Weeks passed. Elias became known as the ghost medic. Prisoners came to him for help. Even a few low-ranking alien guards asked for medicine in secret. Elias never said no. He gave them painkillers, stitched up wounds, and offered kind words. But behind his calm smile, he was preparing something else. One night, a small explosion shook the far end of the camp. The lights flickered, and alarms screamed. In the confusion, 3 prisoners disappeared. The guards couldn't understand how. In the infirmary, Elias pretended to be surprised. But inside, he smiled. Later, the alien commander reviewed the security footage. All 3 prisoners had been treated by Elias before they vanished. In fact, every strange incident, every silent death, every unexplained injury, it's always happened. "Near Elias? Is the human behind this?" one guard asked. "He's just a medic," another said. "He has no weapons." But the commander wasn't so sure anymore. One morning, Elias was called to treat a wounded guard. The injury was deep, and the guard was screaming in pain. Elias calmed him, cleaned the wound, and began sewing it shut. "Why are you helping us?" the guard asked, confused. Elias looked into his eyes and answered softly, "Because I'm a doctor. I help those who are dying." Then he leaned closer and whispered, "But I decide who lives." The guard's eyes widened. But by then, Elias had already injected something into his arm, something that would stop his heart in exactly 3 minutes. Back in the prison yard, prisoners whispered to each other. "They say he can kill without touching. No wounds, no sound, just dead. Maybe he's not just a medic. Maybe he's something else." That night, Elias sat alone in his small corner of the infirmary. He sharpened the broken metal tool he had hidden weeks ago. He looked at a crude map he had drawn on a bandage, and he smiled again. The battlefield had changed. No longer was he a prisoner now. Prison was his operating room, and the enemy. They were just patients waiting for their final diagnosis. The prison camp had changed. Guards walked faster. Their eyes were sharp. They whispered when they spoke about the human medic. One by one, soldiers began dying. No gunshots, no loud fights, just sudden stillness. Some were found in their beds. Others collapsed while walking. All of them had one thing in common. They were treated by Dr. Elias Ward. Still, no one could prove anything. Elias kept his head down. He continued his work in the infirmary, cleaning wounds, giving medicine, and offering quiet comfort. He never argued, never raised his voice, never refused help. But behind his calm eyes, he was planning more. Late one night, Elias stood by a table. Around him were broken medical tools, wires, and cloth. With shaking hands, he wrapped a strange device small, made from a defibrillator battery, a metal tube, and part of a pipe valve. It looked like a tool for surgery, but it was more than that. It was a timed spark bomb. He hid it in a pile of used bandages near the laundry room. That room shared a thin wall with the weapons locker. Elias had studied the camp's layout carefully. When the bomb exploded, the fire would force the guards to move the weapons, and that meant distraction. He checked his watch and walked away. 15 minutes later, a loud boom echoed through the mountain. Smoke filled the prison tunnels. Alarms rang. Lights flashed red. Panic spread fast. Guards shouted orders. Prisoners screamed. In the chaos, 3 more humans slipped into the dark maintenance tunnel that Elias had quietly unlocked days ago in the infirmary. Elias acted surprised. He helped carry wounded guards. He gave oxygen to prisoners choking on smoke. He looked like a hero. The alien commander even thanked him. But one guard wasn't fooled. She's hiding something. The alien said to his superior, "He knows too much." "Then watch him closely," the commander said. "No more mistakes." That same night, a guard tried to catch Elias searching near the ventilation system. But the moment he stepped into the hallway, something stung his neck. He fell in seconds. Elias walked up, pulled a thin metal needle from the guard's skin, and dragged the body into a storage room. He whispered, "Thank you for your service." Then he removed the guard's access card. The next morning, rumors ran through the camp. 3 more prisoners gone. No forced entry. No broken locks. Only Dr. Ward saw them last. One alien prisoner who had been helped by Elias spoke up. "You think a medic can do all this? He has no weapons?" Another whispered, "He doesn't need weapons. He is the weapon." By the end of the week, Elias had a small network. 4 human prisoners, 2 aliens, all loyal to him. He had fixed their broken bones, saved their lives, gave them hope. Now they worked for him. One of them, Private Santos, was young and scared. "Doc, what are we doing? We can't win this. They'll kill us all." Elias looked him in the eyes. "This camp is sick," he said, "rotten from the inside. And what do you do with sickness?" Santos swallowed hard. "You cut it out." Elias smiled. "Exactly." The next phase began. Every night, someone moved. In the shadows, wires were cut, locks were broken, gas lines were adjusted. Elias used his medical skills to create poisons that couldn't be traced. One guard died in his sleep. Another collapsed while eating. Guards became paranoid. They stopped eating camp food. They stopped sleeping near each other. Some even refused to patrol the infirmary. Elias had turned the heart of the camp into a place of fear. Then came the final test. Elias had secretly built a pressure bomb under the laundry chute. If it worked, it would bring down part of the wall, opening a path to the escape tunnel, but he needed time to finish it, so he made a distraction. He poisoned 3 guards, making them sick enough to send to the infirmary. While treating them, he pretended to trip and spill a tray of medical supplies in the mess. He slipped a second device, one that would burn out the security system near the storage area. 30 seconds after the guards left. Cameras went dark. Santos and the others moved. The bomb was ready. Elias stood before it, hands shaking. He looked at the numbers counting down. 5 minutes, he whispered. 5 minutes, and we change everything. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a photo of his sister who had died in an alien attack during the first wave of war. "This is for you, Sarah," he said softly. 5 minutes later, half the camp shook. Dust fell from the ceilings. A huge hole opened in the storage wall. Guards ran to respond. Prisoners shouted in confusion, and in the shadows, Elias Ward smiled. His hands, once used to heal, had become silent weapons. He didn't fire a single shot, but bodies were falling, walls were breaking, and a path to freedom had just opened. And this was only the beginning. Smoke filled the air. Sirens screamed through the prison mountain. Guards ran in every direction. Some shouted orders. Some just ran for cover. In the middle of this chaos, Dr. Elias Ward walked calmly through the hallway. He looked like a normal. Medic sleeves rolled up, clothes dirty from blood and dust. But his mind was sharp, every step calculated. He had caused the explosion. He had opened the wall. And now he was watching how the enemy responded. Just as he expected, the guards rushed to the damaged area. They didn't realize what was really happening. The real attack had already begun. 4 prisoners escaped through the broken wall. 2 humans and 2 alien allies. They slipped into the dark tunnel that Elias had mapped weeks ago. The guards would search for them soon. But by then, Elias planned to be ready for the next phase. Back in the infirmary, a young alien nurse named Lyra looked at Elias with wide eyes. She had seen too much. She was afraid. You caused all this," she whispered. "Why?" Elias didn't deny it. "This camp is not for healing. It's a tomb," he said softly. "I don't plan to be buried in it." Later that night, the first body was found. A senior alien officer, healthy, strong, no known illness, was dead in his bed, no wounds, no struggle, just ... gone. The medical report said heart failure, but the prison commander didn't believe it. He was only 30, the commander said. No history of disease. Guards started whispering again. "This is the 5th one." All of them were treated by the human. In the mess hall, guards sat far from Elias. No one trusted him anymore. But they couldn't prove anything. One brave guard, Goran, stepped close to Elias. "You're not just a medic," he said quietly. "You're doing something here." Elias looked up from his tray. "Of course I am," he said. "I'm saving lives." "Whose lives?" Elias smiled. "The ones that matter." Goran froze. He knew it was a threat. But before he could react, Elias handed him a folded paper. "Read this tonight," Elias said. "Alone." That night, Goran read the paper. It wasn't a threat. It was a list. It showed every cruel act done by the prison staff executions, torture, starvation. It had names, dates, and even witness notes. And at the bottom, a question. "Are you ready to stop being part of it?" By morning, Goran was gone, disappeared. No signs of struggle. The commander assumed Elias had killed him. "Bring the human in," ordered. 2 guards came for Elias. But they were careful, as if they feared touching him. He didn't resist. In the interrogation room, Elias sat across from the commander. "You're clever," the commander said. "Too clever. I'm a doctor," Elias replied. "Not a threat, remember?" The commander slammed his fist on the table. 5 of my men are dead. 3 escaped. 1 disappeared. And all of them were connected to you." Elias leaned forward. "If I wanted to kill every guard here," he said calmly, "you'd all be dead already." The commander stared at him. "Unsure if it was a bluff," Elias continued. "But I don't want that. I want you to leave. Give me the prisoners. Take your soldiers and go. This place won't become a graveyard." The commander laughed, but it sounded nervous. "You think I'll surrender a military prison to a medic?" Elias didn't smile this time. He stood and walked to the door. "You're not surrendering to a medic," he said. "You're surrendering to history."
Back in the infirmary,
Elias met with his team, Santos, Lyra, and 2 others. "It's time," Elias said. "The guards are scared. We take control next week." "How?" Santos asked. "There are still 30 soldiers here." Elias opened a cloth roll. Inside were vials of liquid, carefully made from cleaning chemicals, herbs, and stolen medicine. "We use this tasteless, slow, untraceable." He passed each member a vial, 1 drop per food tray. "By morning, they'll all be too sick to fight." The plan was set. Each day, more guards fell ill. Some collapsed during patrol. Others couldn't walk straight, still. No alarms were raised because it looked like sickness, not poison, finally. The commander called an emergency meeting. Only 8 guards showed up. He realized then, Elias wasn't just killing soldiers. He was dismantling the entire system slowly. Silently, expertly. "He's not a medic," the commander said. One guard replied, "No. He's a scalpel." That night, Elias stood at the center of the prison yard, unarmed, surrounded by shadows. But no one attacked. Most of the guards were too weak. Others had fled. Prisoners stood with Elias quiet, waiting. He raised his voice. "No more chains." Lights went out across the camp. From that moment forward, the prisoners were no longer prisoners. Silence ruled the prison camp. No guards shouted. No doors slammed. No boots echoed in the halls. Elias Ward walked through the dim corridors like a shadow. The lights flickered. Most of the security cameras were dead. The medbay was quiet, cold. The once busy prison had become a tomb with its own doctor walking among the dead. Only a few guards remained, sick and weak. Some locked themselves in the control room, hoping for rescue. Others begged for help. Elias gave them just enough medicine to keep them alive, but not strong. He wanted them to remember. In the yard, the prisoners gathered. They were no longer afraid. They were looking at Elias now, not just as a medic, but as a leader. Santos stood beside him. "We've taken the outer towers," he reported. "Food storage is safe. Weapons room is clear." Elias nodded. "What about the radio tower?" "Still guarded 2 men. We lost one trying to get close." Elias looked toward the mountainside. The radio tower was important. If the remaining guards sent out a distress signal, enemy reinforcements would come. And this time, they wouldn't underestimate a medic. Elias stood outside the infirmary that night. The wind howled through broken vents. He remembered his first days here, weak, dirty, called useless by the enemy. Now, they called him something else. The ghost of the infirmary. A silent killer. A man who turned bandages into weapons. A healer who broke a prison. He never fired a gun, but he had made the enemy fall, one by one. "Ready?" Santos asked. Elias looked up at the night sky. For a moment he thought of Earth, of his sister, of the city they had once lived in. Peaceful, safe. "Yes," Elias said. "Let's take the tower." The plan was simple. Lyra would create a fire in the medical waste room to trigger a smoke alarm on the opposite side of the prison. The remaining guards would run toward the fire. Elias and Santos would climb through the hidden vent system, get into the tower, and disable the communications console. They had 5 minutes. Smoke began to rise. Alarms screamed. Footsteps pounded away. Elias moved fast through the vents. Were tight and filled with dust. Santos followed, holding a small toolkit made from stolen surgical instruments. Finally, they reached the hatch behind the tower's wall. Elias tapped once, twice, then kicked it open. The 2 guards inside were coughing. From the smoke, they raised their rifles too late. Elias threw a vial at the floor. It shattered, releasing a thick white gas. The guards fell within seconds. Elias stepped over their unconscious bodies. He picked up one of the rifles, examined it, then tossed it aside. "Too loud," he said. "Not my style." Santos pulled open the communication panel. "We can destroy it, Doc," he said. Elias shook his head. "No, we reroute it." "Why?" We don't want to hide anymore, Elias said. We want them to hear us. He typed in coordinates and pressed transmit. Then he leaned into the microphone and spoke slowly. This is Dr. Elias Ward, Earthborn. I speak from inside your prison. You called me weak. You called me nothing. But now I hold your camp, your men, your future. If you send more troops, you better send coffins too, because this is no longer a prison. This is ours now. The message echoed across open frequencies. Anyone listening would hear it, and someone did, far above the mountain. A battlecruiser received the signal. Inside, an alien general listened in silence. When the message ended, he stared at the screen. He's just a medic, his officer said. The general shook his head. No, he's something else now. Should we prepare an attack? The general stood, face grim. Not yet. Let's see how far this human goes. Let's see what fear truly looks like. Back at the camp, Elias shut off the console. Santos looked at him. Won't that message bring the war here? Elias turned toward the broken hallway. No, that message was the war. In the days that followed, Elias cleaned up the camp. Not just with medicine, but with leadership. He opened the gates and let in sunlight for the first time in years. He gave supplies to wounded enemy prisoners, those who had refused cruelty. He buried the dead, both human and alien, with respect. And when other prisoners asked him what came next, Elias only said one thing: we heal. But deep inside, he knew healing wouldn't be easy. Not after what he'd done. He had taken lives, manipulated people, spread fear. He had become something new, a ghost, a symbol, a warning. The message from Elias Ward spread like wildfire. Across space, human colonies cheered. Across enemy territory, commanders panicked. One man, just a medic, had taken a military prison and turned it into a message of war, and the enemy had no answer. Not yet. Inside the mountain prison, the survivors worked hard. The camp was quiet now, but not peaceful. Every day, Elias pushed them to rebuild. He organized clean water, fresh rations, guard rotations, and a basic medical bay. Too. The people around him, he was more than just a doctor now. He was hope, was the reason they were alive. But in Ilias's own heart, something darker stirred. He couldn't sleep well, not after what he had done. The poisonings, the lies, the bodies. He had saved many. But he had become something else in the process. Lyra, the alien nurse, walked beside him one evening. You never stop moving, she said. I can't, Elias replied. They'll come for us soon. She looked up at the sky. Then let them come. You already beat them once. He shook his head. I beat weak ones. The real monsters are still out there. She was right about one thing, though. Someone was coming. In deep space. The alien general who had heard Ilias's message held a secret meeting. His top assassin stood in front of him, silent and masked. Her name was Velk, and she had never failed. A mission. You won't fight this man, the general said. You'll study him, learn him, and then, Velk asked. The general leaned forward. Then kill him, quietly, no glory, no trace. Like pulling out a knife hidden in the body. Back at the prison, Elias stood on a tower watching the stars. He had already planned everything: escape tunnels, fallback zones, even decoy signals. But he still felt uneasy. Something was wrong. Santos ran up the stairs. Doc, we found something. Elias followed him down to the edge of the camp. A body was lying near the fence, a dead guard, not one of their own, not sick, not poisoned, neck snapped. Eyes open in fear. No one saw who did it. We're being watched, Elias said. This wasn't a message. It was a warning. That night, Elias didn't sleep. Checked every hallway, every camera, every vent. Then he found it. A camera was disabled. Just one. In the upper hall near the medical records room, Elias moved fast. He entered the room. The air was cold. Too cold. A window was open. A breeze moved the papers on the desk, and something was written on the wall. With blood. Know what you are. Elias froze. He stared at the words, heart pounding. This wasn't about prisoners anymore. It was personal. In the morning, He held a private meeting with his closest team, Santos Lyra, and 2 other loyal fighters. "We're not safe anymore," Elias said. "Someone got in, silent, fast, highly trained." Santos frowned. "A hit team?" "No," Elias said. "Just one, and that's worse." Lyra's hands shook. "What do we do?" Elias picked up a scalpel, looked at its silver edge, and whispered, "We prepare the battlefield again, but this time it's a ghost against a ghost." The assassin, Velk, moved like smoke through the rocks. She studied Elias through long-range lenses, listening to every word he said, watching every step he took. She didn't attack. Not yet. She needed to understand him, not just his mind, but his guilt. She could smell it on him, and guilt was a weapon. 3 days passed, then someone from Elias's team disappeared. A young woman named Kayla, a former pilot. She was helping run the solar panels outside the prison wall. Gone. No body. No trace. Santos found a scrap of cloth, Kayla's sleeve, pinned to a tree with a surgical blade. One of Elias's own tools. "This assassin wants to turn my methods against me," Elias said. Santos stepped back. "Doc, you think they're going to poison us?" Elias nodded slowly. Or worse, make it look like I did." That night, a small fire broke out near the food storage. Nothing major, but enough to draw people out of the camp, while Elias and others ran to help. Another message appeared, painted in ash on the floor of the infirmary. "You heal, I cut." Elias stood frozen. He felt something sharp in the air, not a blade, something worse. Someone was trying to break him, quietly, slowly, just like he had done to them. "This enemy is like me," Elias whispered. "They're not just a killer, they're a mirror." Lyra looked at him. "And how do you beat someone like you?" Elias answered without blinking. "You changed the rules." He ordered new traps to be set. Blind spots closed. Drones activated. No one was allowed to walk alone. The prison became a maze again this time for a ghost hunter. But even as he worked, Elias knew this fight wasn't about guns or guards. Anymore, it was about fear. It was about who could make the other blink first, and Elias Ward was not ready to blink. Rain fell over the mountain prison thin, cold and endless. It had been 6 nights since Kayla vanished. 6 nights of silence. 6 nights of fear. Inside the camp, everyone was tense. The assassin had not attacked again. But Elias knew better. She was still there, watching, waiting, and every second she waited. More pressure built on his shoulders. Elias sat alone in the old command office. Maps were spread across the table. One showed vent tunnels, another showed heat signatures, but none showed her. Velk had no scent, no footsteps, no mistakes. It was like trying to catch a ghost. Lyra entered quietly. "You haven't eaten?" Elias didn't look up. "She's changing tactics. She's not just hunting us anymore." Lyra paused. "What then?" "She's hunting me." Santos burst into the room. "Doc, we found Kayla." Elias stood quickly. "Alive." Atos hesitated. "No." But she wasn't tortured. No bruises, no fight marks. Just one cut. Across the neck. Clean, fast. He swallowed. She never saw it coming. Elias stared at the wall for a long time after that. "She's leaving messages," he said. "Not for us. For me." That night, Elias gathered his team. "I'm ending this," he said. "Alone." Santos stood. "Like hell you are. We're in this together." Elias shook his head. "This isn't a war anymore. It's a duel. Between killers?" "But you're a medic," Lyra said. Elias gave a tired smile. "Not anymore." He returned to the infirmary, where it all began. He washed his hands, tied his sleeves, put on the white coat again, not to heal, but to remind himself of why he started. He didn't want to kill, but if he didn't stop her, everyone else would die midnight. The rain grew harder. Elias sat in the center of the infirmary. Lights dimmed, door open alone. Waiting, he knew she would come, and she did. The shadow entered. Without sound, no breath, no rustle. Only a presence. A chill. Elias didn't turn. You've watched me long enough, he said softly. VLK said nothing. He heard the blade leave its sheath. I know what you think, Elias continued.
How?
That I'm a monster pretending to be a healer. Still silence. He stood slowly, his hands open. No weapon. But you don't understand, I was a healer. Until your people made me survive. A whisper came, soft and cold. And now you kill better than us. Elias turned. Velk stood just meters away, masked. Blade in hand. No fear. Not better, Elias said. But smarter. She moved fast lightning. The blade flashed toward his throat, but Elias dropped too fast for a medic. He rolled under the table, kicked it upward. It smashed into her chest, sending her back. She flipped in the air, landed silently. Elias reached into his coat, pulled a scalpel knot for cutting, but dipped in sleeping serum. He had prepared this moment. Velk lunged again. Her blade slashed the air where his head had been. But Elias wasn't there. He was behind her now. He jabbed the scalpel at her side. She twisted away barely, but the blade scratched her suit. She gasped. The drug entered. Not fatal. She stumbled. You poisoned your own tools. Elias stepped forward. I adapted. That's what humans do. Velk tried to move, but her legs weakened. She dropped to one knee, still holding the blade, still trying. But Elias didn't strike. Again, he knelt beside her, calm. You could have killed many, he said. You didn't. You made it personal. Her head fell forward. You killed one person, Elias whispered. And that's the mistake. She collapsed fully. Elias stood, breathing hard. It was over. He tied her hands, removed her weapons. Placed her inside the isolation room. She would wake up in hours. And when she did, Elias would offer her a choice. Help us heal this place, or rot in it. Santos and Lyra found him later, standing alone in the rain. Is it done? Lyra asked. Elias nodded. I didn't want to win by killing, he said. So I won by understanding. Santos raised an eyebrow. What now? Elias looked up at the dark sky now. We prepare for the real war because the next ones won't send shadows. They'll send fire. But deep in the isolation room, Velk opened one eye and smiled. The sky turned red, not with sunset, but with fire. Enemy ships had arrived. Massive gunships hovered over the mountain prison like silent beasts. Their engines rumbled like thunder. Spotlights swept the rocky ground. From inside the camp, every man and woman stared up in silence. The war had come, and Elias Ward was waiting. Inside the war room, Elias stood over the map table. They're not here for prisoners, he said. They're here for me. Santos gritted his teeth. We knew this would happen. What's the plan? Elias moved markers across the map. They'll hit from the air and try to take the tower. We delay them, force them into ground tunnels, then collapse the tunnel behind them. Lyra stepped forward. You want to trap them inside with us? No, Elias said. I'll be inside with them. Velk sat in the isolation room, arms crossed. She had not spoken since the fight. Not. Even when Elias visited her. But now, hearing the thunder of engines above, she stood near the small window. She smiled. I warned them, she whispered, but they came anyway. Elias opened her door. Velk looked at him. They won't stop, I know. They'll burn everything.
That? I know that too.
Velk tilted her head. And yet you fight? Elias nodded. Because if we don't, then we've already lost. The ground shook. The first missile hit the outer yard, tearing a crater in the earth. Prisoners scattered, alarms screamed, dust rained down like ashdot from the upper cliffs. Dropships descended. Enemy soldiers poured out armed and hungry for revenge. Elias took a small earpiece and walked to the front gate. He turned it on. Yes. Broadcast this on all open channels, he said. Santos hesitated, then nodded. Elias stepped forward, looking up at the sky, spoke into the air. This is Dr. Elias Ward. I'm still alive. You tried poison. You tried fear. Now you bring fire. Good. Let it come. at every soldier. On your side, see this place. Let them remember what happened here. Because this prison is no longer a graveyard. It's where your empire dies screaming. The enemy forces landed. They advanced through the gates but were met with traps. The old infirmary had become a maze, tunnels full of smoke, tripwires, blinding lights. Elias had studied them. He knew how they moved. They were strong, but they weren't ready. He led a team into the tunnels. Santos carried explosives. Lyra monitored coms. Others followed with makeshift weapons. The tunnels were dark and narrow, perfect for ambushes, and in the center stood Elias. Calm, holding nothing but a surgical light. The enemy entered. Gunfire echoed. Grenades flashed. Screams followed. But they didn't find easy targets. They found shadows, traps walls that collapsed behind them, and one by one, fell. Elias moved like a ghost through the chaos. He didn't shoot. He cut supply lines. He blocked exits. He turned panic into power. He made them fear the dark. Outside, Velk watched through a stolen screen. She saw her own people fail. She saw the doctor, the man she was meant to kill, bring soldiers to their knees with no army. No air support, no fleet, just with planning and will and rage. Hours passed when the sun finally rose. The battlefield was silent. Smoke drifted over. The cliff's bodies lined the outer fence. Inside the prison, humans stood tall, alive. Victorious, VLK, stood at the gate as Elias returned. Dirty and bruised. She clapped slowly. Impressive, she said. You held them back. I didn't hold them, Elias said. I broke them. She stepped closer. You can't win forever. Elias stared at her. I don't need forever. Just enough. Enough for what? He looked up at the sky and smiled. Suddenly a signal broke through the static. A voice came over the long-range radio. This is Fleet Command. To all prisoners of Mountain Camp Eco 6, we received your signal. Hold the line. Help is on the way. Elias dropped into a chair, exhausted. He closed his eyes, finally, letting out a breath he had held for days. They weren't alone anymore. Santos burst into laughter. Doc, you mad bastard. You actually did it. Lyra smiled, tears in her eyes. We're going home. Elias opened his eyes and stared at the rising sun. They had survived the fire. But he knew the real storm was still coming. The human fleet was coming. Elias stood at the top of the tower, wind in his coat, eyes on the sky. He watched as tiny lights moved across the clouds, friendly warships, responding to the message he sent weeks ago. The signal of a medic, the signal of a man who turned a prison into a weapon. Inside the base, the survivors prepared. They gathered weapons, repaired walls, cleaned the blood from floors. Everyone was tired, but no one ran, because they knew this was the final stand. The enemy would not leave quietly. Santos met Elias at the gate. Fleet says they'll be here in 5 hours. Elias nodded. The enemy won't wait. Lyra walked up next, holding a tablet. Scans show new troop carriers landing on the far ridge. How many? Elias asked. She hesitated. Hundreds. Elias didn't flinch. Then we bury hundreds. Velk stood in her cell. She watched the storm build from her window. The same soldiers who once called her an elite were now desperate. Losing, she had studied. Elias Ward. She had tried to kill him, and now she wanted to help him. Elias walked in. Velk raised an eyebrow. You need me? Elias folded his arms. No, but they do. She stepped forward. I know the attack plans, the codes. Let me fight. Elias stared at her. Why would you help humans? She didn't answer right away, then said softly, because you're not like us. You win without becoming monsters. Hope in the door. Prove it. The enemy came like thunder. Drop pods fell across the ridge. Artillery lined the cliffs, and walking machines 3 stories tall moved toward the prison. But inside the camp, the survivors didn't run. They fought. Santos led the front gate defense, firing rockets into the first wave. Lyra worked in the infirmary, stabilizing the wounded, injecting strength boosters, shouting orders like a commander in Elias. Elias vanished into the smoke. He moved behind the lines, sabotaged walkers, cut fuel lines, planted charges. Velk followed beside him, guiding him through enemy blind spots. Together, they moved like blades through cloth, fast, silent, exact. Then the final machine came over the hill, larger than the rest, painted in red. With enemy banners on its sides, inside it stood the alien General Calyx, the same one who had ordered Elias captured and tortured long ago. He wasn't here to take prisoners. He was here to erase Elias Ward from history. The machine opened fire. Cannons roared. Half the wall exploded. Men and women screamed. Elias ran toward it. No fear. He and Velk moved low, under fire, until they reached the machine's legs. Now, Elias shouted. Fat climbed fast. Disabling the sensors, Elias planted his last charge right. Under the knee joint, they jumped off just as the explosion ripped through the metal. The walker fell like a dying god, crashing into the ridge. Inside, the general screamed. Still alive? Elias approached the burning cockpit. The general crawled out, face burned. Armor cracked. You, he growled. You're just a medic. Elias knelt beside him. I was, he said. Then you made me something else. The general laughed through blood. You think this war ends today? Elias leaned in close. No, but you do. He stood up and led. The flames finished the rest. The sky lit up with blue streaks. Human ships arrived finally with banners of Earth glowing like fire across the clouds. The last enemy troops fled. Some surrendered. Others simply vanished into the rocks. The war for the mountain was over. Later in the ruined infirmary, Elias sat alone. Santos and Lyra entered quietly. It's done, Santos said. Elias didn't answer. Lyra stepped closer. You okay? Elias looked down at his hands. I saved lives. I ended others. I stopped the killing by becoming one. Lyra touched his shoulder. You gave us a chance. You didn't become a monster, Santos added. You became humanity's. Edgevelk stood in the doorway, now wearing human armor. She didn't speak, but gave a small nod, and Elias nodded back. Some enemies change. Some enemies become family. The human fleet landed. Medical teams arrived. Survivors were carried out. Food, supplies, and clean air flowed back into the ruins. But one tower stayed untouched. The place where Elias made his stand. It became a monument. A place where soldiers could look up and remember. Asterisk, asterisk, here stood a healer. And when all hope was gone, he turned pain into power.